Well, here's my grass-fed cow. If you watch my videos, you've probably seen her in a couple other clips, but she's actually a really nice little cow. I raised her from a baby. It's almost time for her to go, but she's real gentle. She was gone for probably about a year, just out being grass-fed, and now she's back. I'd wondered if she was going to still be gentle when she came back, because she was running with, like most of the grass-fed cows you deal with are going to be kind of wild and standoffish because they're out there alone and nobody's feeding them every day. They're just getting grass-fed. But she's friendly still. I think she still remembers me, I guess. But the problem you got with these grass-fed cattle is, unless you're a huge business that spent whatever you spent to get all your FDA licenses and open your own facility, a guy like me can't just take this cow and slaughter her and sell her. The most important part, I would say, is that I can't sell you a steak. I can't sell you a hamburger. What I have to do legally is I have to take this cow, drop her off at the processor, let them process her, and then if you want to buy any meat from me, you have to pick it up at the processor, which would mean the only real fair way to do that would be if you buy the whole cow or half the cow. I think if you split it up into quarters, there's always the chance somebody could get cheated. But then again, most likely you're not going to get, you could probably do quarters. But after that, buying shares and all that it's good that people are working together on it. Don't get me wrong. It's just, what do you do whenever you have 1/8 and 1/16 of a cow, which is what fits in most people's refrigerator? There's only 4 quarters on a cow, really, and you're talking about the shoulders are not as big as the hips. If somebody was to want a tongue, there's only one tongue. I know that sounds weird. There's only one tail. The big problem is that I can't sell you a steak legally. If you wanted one steak, I'm dropping her off this week to be processed. The deal is that, if you wanted a steak, you could come pick it up from the butcher and I could sell it to you that way. But that's the only time. Once it's picked up from the butcher, I can't sell it to you. That's the other problem that comes in. A lot of people don't realize that's where the problem comes in. And the butcher is not going to hold my cow forever. So I can't say, well, I got these steaks. If you want to go get them, pay me and then go, or pay the butcher whenever you get there or something like that. I can't do that because the butcher's going to need space in his freezer for the next cow that comes in or the next animal that comes in that he needs to process. Here's the other thing about grass-fed is they're not going to grow as fast. Whenever you have these GMO grains and all this stuff you can feed an animal and pump them up on hormones and stuff, you can obviously make them grow faster. This is a 1.5 year old calf. I would say she's about 600 pounds. Maybe 550 is what I'm thinking. A GMO fed calf would be a lot bigger than this, in my opinion. But a lot of that's genetics too. But she's fat. She's been eating grass, so that's a bonus. The farmer has to do rotation because whenever you're not feeding grains, you're talking about overgrazing an area. So as far as prepping, there is a lot of work for a farmer. So let me go through the process real quick of what I can legally do so that you guys will understand how this all would work. Basically, I can take a cow, grass feed it. Now the next thing is whenever the cow's ready, a lot of people do 2 years, which is reasonable because you get a cow that weighs 800 pounds or 900 pounds maybe 1,000 if you're lucky. But after 2 years, they'll take it to the processor, process it out, and then they have to take it home. The only option there is that a processor can allow your customer to pick up the meat. And a processor is probably, unless you work out a special deal, they're probably not going to want to process, 16 parts for somebody and give 16 equal parts or 8 equal parts. I know they would be glad to split it. They'd be fine with doing that or quarter it, maybe. Maybe they would be okay with quartering it. But then you start getting into that where somebody could be cheated if you're not careful. As far as sales go, there's this window of opportunity where a person can sell their cow. Well, basically you make an appointment with the processor. The processor's usually really busy, so you have to set an appointment and a date that you're going to drop them off. Once you set that appointment, you have the time from the time you set that appointment till it's time for you to pick up your meat to sell that cow. Once the processor is done with it, you've got to get it out of there, or you're going to be paying storage fees. And a lot of them, after 30 days of storage, they're going to throw the meat away, or that's what they say, they'll throw it away. They're going to keep it, of course. But the deal is they don't want to store your meat for you while you decide when you're going to get it sold. You just have a short window of when to sell them. That's why these guys do pre-orders on grass-fed cattle, and they try to line up customers and all that, because it's not like the grocery store where you can go by the guy's house. Because I've got a big freezer. I have a pretty good sized freezer that'll probably hold this whole calf, but you can't come buy it from me at my house, legally anyway. They actually, at the processor, they'll put not for retail. And so that's really where the problem comes in. And that's why grass-fed has to be a premium, because of the long time raising it, and then a short window of when it can be sold. Other than that, the grower is going to be stuck with a whole cow. And even if you just love eating steak and potatoes and love eating hamburgers and all that stuff, you know, you can only get burnt a couple of times, and then your freezer is not going to hold any more meat. You're going to be, you know, you got to eat something besides steak every now and then. And, you know, it just doesn't work out, because I know that they're doing this to protect, well, it does protect big business a little bit, so I'll give them that. But it protects the consumer, and that's the idea, is to protect the consumer. But there should be, I guess what I would suggest is there should be something where there's a buyer beware option for a grower, a single grower, to sell his meat to somebody. But then, you know, that's the only thing you could do. The only other exception I've got is that I could invite you over for dinner and serve you a steak. But that's it. I can't sell it any other way. But that's why it's so crazy, and that's where the process gets complicated. And I don't know, you know, I don't know what to do other than that, other than to buy a facility and start running a lot of cattle and other animals through that facility, because a lot of people don't know this. Whenever you slaughter an animal, the law is you have to have an FDA inspector there to do it. So either you're the small time guy who drops them off, or you're the big time guy who has the big processing operation where you can have it done. Most of us aren't wealthy enough to be able to vertically integrate our whole operation. Obviously, the perfect operation would be to have a nice processing operation and a lot of land. You know, take your calves, grow them all out grass-fed, rotate them through a whole bunch of paddocks, because the more cattle you got, the more paddocks you need. Then process them at your processor, and then have your giant, huge walk-in fridge there waiting for any customer that wants to come by and buy it. Now, you know, run the numbers on that. See if it doesn't cost you $500,000 or, you know, maybe more to get that going. I just wanted to let you in on that and let you know where the problems are with grass-fed beef and why it's so complicated. For ground beef, you're paying $7 a pound. Let me give you one more little bonus. If you go to some of these stores, you know, just like a big box store or whatever, a chain store, and buy grass-fed beef, you'll look on the package and it says product of Australia. And you wonder, why? How is that sustainable? What is that? Whenever Australia is, actually, if you're in Texas, India is exactly through the other side of the world, but Australia is pretty much exactly the opposite side of the world from America. But they're flying in grass-fed beef here. How does that work? Why can't we grow it here and make it better? It's so complicated. As a store, you don't want to get a bad name as a liar or whatever, or as somebody who's not telling the truth about maybe the cow got some grain, or maybe the cow wasn't non-GMO or something like that. So one thing that's guaranteed is in the Australian outback and some of New Zealand, there's cattle that were brought over in the, whenever all the conquistadors were coming and all that, or I don't know if there's conquistadors in Australia, but anyway, whenever the explorers were coming over, they brought their European cattle. Some of them went wild, and they've been wild for a long time, kind of like the way the Texas Longhorn used to be. So there's actually catchers, bull catchers and stuff. It's pretty neat. There's some videos on YouTube. They go out with trucks and stuff, and they have a little grab arm on the side of their truck, and they grab these cattle that are wild, and that's what you're getting. You're getting some grass-fed wild cattle from Australia. But that's that's still, the idea is to be sustainable here. That's what we wanted to do, and we also want to be healthy. So I think the people that buy that grass-fed beef from Australia are putting their health first, and I don't blame them. So I just want to change that, and I want to make it where grass-fed can be in Texas, and we can have a good operation there and not have to go halfway around the world. Not that that's a bad operation. Now the other thing is that I'm not able to do that, but I'm gonna at least start out and do as much of my part as I can. So I'm offering grass-fed beef now. You just got to pick it up at the processor. And be sure and subscribe. If you want to check out my Instagram, I actually post stuff on Instagram every single day. So check that out. It's Brazos Forager. I'm also Brazos Forager on Twitter. All right,